Wednesday morning, everyone. Lovely to have you with us for today's morning briefing from the Celtic Way with me, Hamish. And John has joined me as well. Hello, John.
Hi, Hamish. How you doing? Hamish,
Yeah.
you wouldn't know this, but it's lovely weather here in Scotland this week, so everyone's been enjoying that. You've been enjoying that all of our winter, so we get a bit back this week with the first days of spring.
Yeah, and we're starting to go the other way now. It's still nice enough. It's pleasant. I've not quite looked out the jacket yet, but we're certainly going the other way. It'd be nice if it's like that at Celtic Park on Saturday. A nice spring feeling as we look to take steps to wrap the league up.
Yeah, it will be. I love this time of year. The football ramps up to excitement. You get the first bits of spring. I've been in my garden. I've been planting me bits and pieces, Hamish. So I'm a happy boy right now.
Excellent. Okay. Plenty to chat about today, everyone. So settle down. First of all, a quick word from our sponsor. This Celtic Way video is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Glasgow, Edinburgh, and the surrounding areas, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Okay, morning, everyone. Hazel and Thomas and Paul, Francis, Henrik McLarson, Tommy. Lovely to have you all with us. What's in your mind, John?
Yeah, just kind of slowly ramping back up to Celtic action. It's been a fairly slow international break in a sense, a couple of blows along the way. I wasn't really engaged with all the Scotland stuff, so I missed out on all that. And I'm just looking forward to Celtic getting back into a groove now and seeing, firstly, what kind of team Brendan Rodgers plays at the weekend, because there's been a fair amount of regular starters being off far-flung places around the world, in America and Japan, South Korea. So there's been players all over the world. So we'll kind of have to see what type of team that Brendan Rodgers puts together for the weekend, with all the players filtering back to Lennoxtown as we speak. Really, it kind of ramps up from Wednesday onwards in an international break to get the full complement of players back. So that's what's happening at Celtic at the moment.
I've got a really kind of sad life here at the moment, and I sat and watched the first half of Japan last night just to see how Dyson played, and he certainly, first of all, looked totally fit, looked himself. I literally turned the game on right after we came off the video last night with Ryan, and the first thing, I literally turned it on, and he ran through and smacked the kind of crossbar slash post, like the top of the post, and he should have scored. And then he had 2 minutes later where a defender fizzes a ball across, and it's one of those that if he makes contact, he probably scores. And then about 10 minutes after that, he dispossesses the defender, runs through in goal, and then gets muddled up, loses a ball behind him, and ends up scuffing a shot straight into the goalkeeper. So he could have had 3 goals within 10 minutes of watching him. It's mad to watch even at that level for Japan. He's just such a threat. But it was a really poor game. I think he played about 75 minutes, replaced by Kyogo. Remember him?
Yeah,
and Real Hitati came on at the same time as well. So I watched the first half, didn't watch the second half because it was so bad. The first half dies in a side. They've got a guy called Nakamura, Japan. I don't know who he plays for. I want to say he plays for a French team. We should definitely be looking at him if he's not too expensive, because he is a hell of a player, left winger.
That would boost the shirt sales a wee bit if we get another Nakamura in the building. First of all, it's good to hear that Dyson made is like looking fit, because it was a knock from Tom Lawrence he took in the derby, didn't he?
And yes, then he naughty one, by the way.
Yeah, and then he missed the initial training sessions with Japan before coming back into training. So I'm glad that he's fully fit and ready to go. And I don't foresee any issues him travelling home. I mean, he's been around the world a lot with Japan and back to Celtic and performed. So he'll be in the team hopefully against Hearts. But yeah, hopefully just he continues that goal scoring form that he's been on. It's been remarkable this season. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but the season he's had is crazy, and he's a shoo-in for every award for me. So hopefully he can just justify that in these last couple of months of the season as well.
Yeah, AR pointing out it's amazing how we watch other nations yet not Scotland. I've got the time of day on my side here. I'm not going up at 4 a.m. for Steve Clark. But anyway, Yang played as well. I think he came on as a sub for the final 20 minutes or so for South Korea. I think they drew, so they will all be coming back. But it seems Casper aside, like we've not picked up any other knocks. Is there any update on Casper?
I think the idea is like there's been a lot of speculation, and a lot of it's come from the Danish media. There was kind of chat that some people were worried if he was even going to be available for Denmark's games later in the year. I think the chat is not like there's no. I don't think he's going to be out for like 9 months or something, which is some of the chat going on social media. I think the indication is he will be out for a bit of period. I don't think he's going to play against Hearts at the weekend. Again, we'll hear confirmation from Brendan Rodgers at some point before Hearts, of course, with his press conference, or he might do a wee interview with Celtic TV. So it looks like he's going to be out for a wee period, and that Sinisalo will get some sort of initial opportunity. But how long he's going to be out, I don't even know if Celtic know at this point. Do they have the scan results back? As you know, these things can take time. So I guess it's just, again, it's a waiting game. But it does look like he's going to be out for a wee length of time here. Just hoping, because it'd be a real shame for him. And this is, Tony spoke to Murdo McLeod yesterday. It's an interview up on the site, and he was saying that, it'd be a real shame for him to miss out on all these celebrations at the end of the year, because that's part of why he came to Celtic. He witnessed all of that with Joe Hart last year. He's good friends with Joe Hart. He said that was a motivating factor for him to come to Scotland to kind of participate in all these celebrations and kind of all the success. And he's been so integral to that. And it's just going to be a real shame if he misses out on the majority of that at the end of the season. So hopefully, fingers crossed, there's some good luck along the way here and maybe get him back for the tail end of the season. But it's such a blow for him personally, and obviously for Celtic as well.
I think it's the not knowing is always the difficult bit, and we don't really know at this stage whether it's just something that he might be okay for after Hearts, or if it's something that might keep him out for the rest of the season, for example. So hopefully we get a bit of insight from Brendan Rodgers, because I think when it happens in international duty, you see the reports, but it's kind of less of an issue for an international manager, I think, if they're probably not going to see him for a wee while anyway, although there's games in June, isn't there? So, okay, we'll wait and see with Casper. Can we cover this fine stuff and the Brendan Rodgers getting a ban for his timekeeping being poor?
Like, I fully understand UEFA kind of wanting to crack down on serious issues around Europe and European football, but they just seem to, after every round of matches, they send this massive PDF. I don't know if anyone's ever seen this, but basically there's these PDF are circulated by their media team to everyone, and it's just full of infractions from teams all over Europe. Some of them minor, some of them serious.
Blocking stairways.
Yeah, blocking stairways, or a late kickoff, I think was the thing. I don't know about you, Hamish. I never even noticed the game kicked off late in Munich.
How late are we talking?
I don't know. There was no indication of how late the kickoff was. Maybe someone on the chat will have a better memory than me, but I don't remember a serious delay in that match. And obviously, Celtic got hit by a €10,000 fine. Brendan Rodgers, bizarrely, I think, suspended for 1 match, a touchline ban for 1 match, obviously suspended for a year, so likely won't be another infraction from him, so you won't need to serve that 1 game suspension. But that's a silly reason to give a touchline ban for a manager for me. So I understand UEFA's position, but some of these fines, it just seems to be, it's a bit like it's a wee money-making service for UEFA. It feels like at times with these PDF rules of €10,000 fines, €15,000 fines. Again, I understand the serious problems, some of the serious problems around European football with kind of racism and stuff like that. I understand them wanting to crack down on that, but there's so many of these minor infractions, Hamish, that clubs have to pay up for.
I'm with you 100%. I just think it's daft. I know these days with TV companies and stuff like that, there's certain rules. I can't remember what sport it was. I remember doing a tour of somewhere recently. I don't know if it was here or back home, but it was some sport. It might have been football, and there was some sort of rule that if the kind of teams were late by like a minute in the tunnel before a game, they got fined like 10 grand and stuff. So I guess I wonder if that was UEFA related, actually. I can't remember, but they're really, really strict with these things. But I agree. I think there's far more important things out there that UEFA should be focusing on. But anyway, we'll survive, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, you get plenty of money back from UEFA in return, so the club aren't wanting for it. It's just, it just seems to be, regardless of what you do in a UEFA match now, you're going to end up with some sort of fine out of it. I'd love to see the club who has a sparkling clean record throughout UEFA competitions this season, because almost every club must have had some sort of infraction that they've had to answer to UEFA to.
McLaughlin PUA for trying to get their money back from us for this season's campaign. I think they've got a bit to go because we did pretty well.
Yeah.
Right, okay, we can tick that off. A bit of daft stuff there that Celtic need to deal with. So players will be, I guess, mainly back at Lennoxtown. Now they've got a couple of days to go ahead of Saturday. It's just going to be interesting to see the reaction that we get from the team, because if they're anything like us, they'll have been stewing over that Derby defeat for at least several days and hoping to get back out in that pitch.
Yeah, quite interesting. One of the things that's been in my head is, like, do you think Rodgers is going to... Do you think the Mike Nawrocki thing was just a one-off for the Derby? Do you see him getting any more minutes? Do you think that was just a one-off? Because all the Celtic fans were saying he was probably the best.
He was.
Player on the day. So is that not harsh? Should he be given more of an opportunity between now and the end of the season?
He had a great derby last season in December. I can't remember if he started that game or if he came on. I think he maybe came on and he had a great game and wasn't really seen too often after that. I just think it's a bit like Lager Bielka. I just think Brendan Rodgers doesn't fancy him at all. Maybe a lack of pace with Nawrocki. But I know he's had his moments, Nawrocki. He's not been... I think we'd be rewriting history to say he's like always been good when he's played. Like I remember Pittodrie last year when the team were struggling, he was poor. But in the main, when I've seen him, I've kind of thought he's had something about him. And again, he was like a well-hyped player at Legia Warsaw. We didn't sign him from nobody's. Like they're quite a big club in a decent enough league. Young player hype. We paid, I think, was it like 3 or 4 million or something like that for him. So I think there's certainly a player there. I just don't think Brendan Rodgers likes him.
I think it's an element of does Brendan Rodgers trying to trust his build-up play or kind of progressing the ball from the back into midfield and taking that step forward. I think that's why Austin Trusty eventually won his place from Liam Scales, where he felt Liam Scales was a little bit slow in that regard as well as he did. I think from a purely defensive standpoint, I think Nawrocki obviously has the attributes. He's physical, he's strong. Again, the pace you mentioned there, but I think it's a difficult one because it seems harsh, and then the spotlight will be on Austin Trusty, and obviously Cameron Carter-Vickers has been travelling, so I was just wondering, is there scope for him getting another run out? But probably not. That is the answer to that. I've kind of answered my own question there, but it's a weird one because he seems to be so far down the pecking order that kind of even Dane Murray was ahead of him at one point. Obviously not for the derby, but
fell apart.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah. So and you even wonder if he's not going to get a game, then you can't see him having a kind of a long-term future at Celtic. I kind of had him earmarked down as one who was certain to leave in January, never mind the summer.
Yeah.
But then that derby performance does kind of change perception a little bit.
Yeah, Jerry talking about Trusty and Scales. I think Trusty, as you say, wasn't too far away from playing in the derby, so I think the feeling would be like McGregor that he'd return. I think they both get calf issues.
Yeah.
As I understand it, I think Scales might be missing for a wee period. That's pretty obvious, given that he's, I think it's kind of broken his jaw, and I think he's had surgery. So during the break, so he'll be missing for, I think, several weeks from now.
Yeah.
So if Trusty's not there, I mean, with it not being a derby, would you then look at Dane Murray? You probably would still be Nawrocki, wouldn't you, if Trusty isn't there?
I mean, yeah, for me personally, I mean, we talk a lot about, bringing young players in when there is a chance for a space for them to do so. I know Brendan Rodgers has talked up Dane Murray and kind of the attributes that he likes, but I just think if Trusty's not available, given the performance Nawrocki put in against Rangers, I think you would have to let him keep his place in the team. I think that would be very harsh if that didn't happen, but I wonder as well, just, the Jeffrey Schlipp and Greg Taylor's just been totally bombed out the picture. Like the Celtic defence at the moment is just kind of, it's different to what we started the season with, and it's going to be different in this tail end of the season. It's really important that whoever plays there, Brendan Rodgers gets the right blend, because obviously Sinisalo is going to be kind of new to that situation, and then potentially that a couple of injuries here and there. Will Greg Taylor come back in because he's got that kind of leadership thing, or that kind of squad leader thing, or will he, stay with Schlupp? And obviously we've got Johnston didn't play well in the derby, but you kind of theorise whether he's got a knock, but he's playing every minute for Canada and kind of filling in
weird.
around in their squad as well. So he'll be good to go as well. It's just the Celtic defence at the moment seems a bit in flux a wee bit. Would you agree with that?
Johnson's a strange one because watching that derby, I mean, he had a terrible game, right? Worst game I think for the club, and there's not been many of them. But there was even moments in the game where he got the ball, and he normally drive forward with it, and he just looked so laboured and unsure. And I don't know if he was just having a bad day. I mean, maybe his confidence had gone a bit, but he genuinely looked like he was injured. I thought at times, so I was surprised to see him play. What was it? A couple of games for Canada. But Sloop, I think, will play. I think Greg Taylor would potentially see him on Trophy Day, and that's it for the season now.
Do you think that's just he's just decided he's leaving Celtic and Rodgers has just gone, right, well, what's the point? And kind of giving you more game time. If he's wanting to have Sloop as that kind of backup to Tierney, it makes sense that he would give him as many minutes as possible to try to, solidify his place in the wider squad, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think Sloop's just a better option for us at the moment. And, I mean, Taylor's been a really good player for us, generally speaking, but I do think he went off it a bit this season. I don't think he was at the same level, and Sloop's come in and made a difference. I know a lot of people were quite critical of Sloop for the derby. I didn't think he was our worst player or even close to being our worst player. I still thought he gave us a bit in the derby, even though he had obviously everyone kind of had a poor game, probably apart from Naropski. But Sloop would certainly be in there. But I take your point about the defence for the weekend. It's going to be a bit makeshift to an extent. If you've got Sinisalo in there, who knows what will happen at centre back. Johnston needs to put in a better performance. So that could be a bit of a worry. It's a tough game on Saturday, and I think the atmosphere is going to be interesting on Saturday as well, because normally after the break, I think the Celtic support realise you might not see that spectacular performance in the first game back. But equally, I think we're all going, well, people are going on Saturday and hoping to see a real reaction. And if we don't get off to that good start, it could be a tough afternoon for us.
Yeah, I mean, Hearts as well, pushing for Europe still. I mean, it's so tight between 3rd and 7th, I think, or maybe not 8th. St Mirren are kind of a wee bit away, but I think there's 5 points or 5 or 6 points between 3rd and 7th. And, these teams are going to be so motivated to try to get into those European spots at the end of the season, because it's becoming increasingly lucrative for them, as well as obviously Celtic. They've got pathways into group stage football as well. So Hearts are going to be motivated, and they've had some up and down results. Obviously, they lost the derby, but I think they're coming into this on the back of 2 wins. So they're going to be very motivated for this one, and can score a goal or two on their day as well, as we know this season. So it's definitely going to be a bit of a test of kind of Celtic's status heading into this last period of the season after the derby. We all want a reaction, but it's maybe one of those games you want the win under your belt and just kind of build into this kind of last 2 months of the season, because if it's not a win, then just the narrative of kind of like our Celtic going off the boil is just going to continue, and I don't think Brendan Rodgers wants to allow that to happen in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, right, I'll go through a few comments. AR saying a game against Hearts at home will be a good test for Sinisalo. Henry McClarson, guess the Hearts boys will be told to test the keeper with shots, crosses and challenges. With Sinisalo in goals, we need good defensive choices just to settle things down. I think just generally speaking on Saturday, we just need to settle everyone down. I take your point about a win being the most important thing. I just think everyone's just a little bit on edge. I've even seen a couple of people doubting whether the league title is wrapped up yet. And obviously it's not wrapped up yet, but people doubting whether we could end up in some sort of title fight. I think the team just need to win on Saturday and settle everyone down.
Yeah, that's a bit of a panicky response for me. But as we know, panic does permeate through football supporter bases. That's part of being a supporter sometimes, is you do feel that sense of panic. I think for me, we will see Celtic settle everyone down at the weekend. I'm not thinking that Hearts are going to get a result or anything, especially considering it's at Celtic Park. But yeah, it's a day for settling everyone down and just refocusing everyone on what is actually ahead.
I think I'm right in saying every game against Hearts this season so far has been right after an international break. Because we had one at the start of the season. It was at Celtic Park, Engels' first start when he scored the penalty. And then we had one at Tynecastle. Remember the Saturday night one that was right off the back of an international break? So that's a strange quirk. But both games have been 0-0 as well. And certainly at Tynecastle, I know it's different at Tynecastle, but at Tynecastle, Hearts really tested us, I thought, in that first half. I don't know if I've even seen much of them this season. I think I watched the derby recently that Hibs won. They've got a few new players, Hearts. They've got a forward that they signed, and they've also got the young guys at Wilson who's played for Scotland as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what they offer.
I mean, but that Celtic defence needs to be aggressive from the start of that match, because as someone pointed out in the chat there, if Hearts get a sneaky early goal, that's just going to people's hair are going to be on fire at Celtic Park. So the defence need to start aggressively and not be passive in this one, and really make sure that Hearts know that they're in a battle from the off, and Celtic need to assert themselves on the game. I think the start of games has been a little bit of a problem. Obviously, it was certainly in the derby, and everyone wants to see Celtic just come out and really attack this game. That's what we want to see. Even if it's a tight scoreline, you want Celtic to be assertive in the match. We can't have this kind of nerviness that permeated in that performance in the derby. Even if it's like a change of goalkeeper, a change of couple of people, it needs to be a strong, cohesive Celtic performance.
So you're not particularly apprehensive about the game?
No.
You think Celtic will be all right?
I think so. Obviously, I just think Celtic are a better team than Hearts, and there's a little bit of a point to prove. And generally, I think Celtic have responded well to poor results this season. So I don't think it's going to be a blow-away performance or anything. It might be a kind of tight scoreline game. It might be a kind of a 1-0 or like a 2-1 type of game. I wouldn't be too surprised if that was the case, but I think Celtic will get the job done, and then everyone can just kind of breathe a little bit and for what's ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Did Sinisalo play for Finland? I don't think he would have, would he? Because he tends to be their second or even third choice goalkeeper. I mean, it's going to be a big afternoon for him, isn't it? If he does play, but you're thinking that he'll have just been waiting for this opportunity. Didn't really have much to do against Wraith Rovers from memory. I don't think they really tested us that day, but we were talking him up at the start of the season, weren't we? Like, we're all quite excited about what he could offer. So part of me, I guess, watching the game on Saturday, will be looking forward to finding out a bit more about him. So.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, this is what he's in the squad for. This is what he's paid to do. He's paid to be ready for these moments. I don't think anyone... nobody was expecting Casper Schmeichel to be injury prone, but naturally he's an older player. He's older than Joe Hart. Injury issues can pop up at that kind of age when you reach that stage of your career, especially with the amount of games that Casper Schmeichel plays for club and country. So nobody can be really too surprised as much of it as a blow. It's not a massive surprise that Schmeichel's going to be out for a wee while, and Sinisalo will have had to have been ready for that for the entire season. So hopefully he just has that mentality. Part of the thing about becoming a goalkeeper is having a really strong mentality. It's so crucial, and so that needs to be on point as much as anything. I mean, we saw that a little bit during the dreaded season that we don't like to talk about, the season that shall not be named, if you will, when Vasilis Barkas just seemed to have a nightmare. And regardless of his talent, just didn't seem to be able to cope with the pressure of playing for Celtic. For me, that's what it looked like looking in on that. And hopefully, part of the recruitment of Sinisalo is identifying whether he's got the metal and the stuff to kind of perform for Celtic on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. So elsewhere in the team, I guess McGregor will find out his situation, but I think everything we've heard suggests that Cal McGregor should be back. I think he was close to playing in the derby, and after a couple of weeks with his feet up or whatever, you'd hope he'd be back.
He actually trained the day before the derby, and he got through that training session, but I think it started to feel tight towards the end of the session, so it was just kind of like this wee ongoing issue, but I think a couple of weeks of rest will surely have sorted that, so I'm expecting McGregor to be in the team at the weekend.
Next to Engels.
Yeah, Engels. I mean, again, the travel involved. Will Rio Hatate come into the team? Will Luke McCowan get another chance? I know Luke McCowan frustrated people in the derby, but he also had the kind of moment that set Hatate up for his goal. So we know that Luke McCowan is capable of that and could do a job against Hearts. I think, I'm a fan of Luke McCowan. I know there's some question marks around from some. Some are, complaining whether he can be a starter for Celtic. He's just going to be a squad player. But, I'd be tempted to have him in the team if travel is an issue around Hatate as well.
Okay, that's going to be good. And then we'll wait and see with the front three. It feels as if there's decisions to be made for Brendan Rodgers as well. And it's not too long until we hear from him as well. We might get a Celtic TV thing. We often do. I'm surprised there's not been anything during the break, but certainly Friday we'll
CM Punk that seemed to be the Celtic TV star of the show.
What's the story there?
So basically, WWE were in Glasgow. They're touring Europe at the moment, and I think Celtic have kind of launched this kind of merchandise thing with WWE, where WWE do these kind of replica belts of sports teams across America, and I think they launched it with like about 16 European teams of, it's not the kind of merchandise that I get. I think the belts are something like 500 quid as well. But anyway, Celtic are getting a cut of that. So I think there's a wee relationship there. And I think there was a wee thing with CM Punk last year, bringing Celtic into the rivalry with the guy who supports Rangers or whatever. So I think there's a wee tie up there. And obviously the club invited him along to get a wee bit of exposure around that. I mean, these guys are massive stars. They're huge stars. So a wee bit of stardust around Celtic Park during the international break. God,
it really is an international break if we're discussing CM Punk and wrestling. Dear, oh dear. Okay, before we go, you just wanted to mention something. In fact, tell us what's on the website and also what you've got going on.
Yeah, so as I said, Tony was speaking to Murdo McLeod yesterday, so you can go up and read his comments. Ryan did like an international roundup of all the players if you're looking for like a one-stop shop of what everyone is up to. I'm launching a new newsletter on the website, a weekly newsletter every Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning, arriving in your inbox, Celtic news, a bit of gossip, a bit of opinion, lots of stuff that's only available. It's not going to be on the website. It's only going to be available to people who subscribe to the newsletter. The newsletter is completely free. You don't need to pay for the newsletter. You don't need to be a subscriber to the website for the newsletter. You just go to the Celtic Way newsletter page. I think it's celticway.co.uk/newsletters. You just go there, sign up. I'm at the top of the page. Just click the sign up button and you'll get a wee email to your inbox every single Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's written by me about Celtic, about whatever's going on at Celtic, whatever my thoughts on Celtic are that week. So just a wee plug for that to get involved with that.
No, that's very good. Oh, I see you there. Looking good.
Yes.
So that's celticway.co.uk/newsletters.
Yes.
And there's a wee bit. That's pretty good. So people should get involved there if they want a wee weekly 10 a.m. On a Friday. You'll get your in your inbox all the Celtic news. That's brilliant.
I put the link in the chat there. I'll also put it in the comments as well below for people to check out. Okay, great stuff. Anything else? No, nothing too much else. Again, we'll have all the latest news of whatever's happening coming out of Celtic later this week, all the injury news. Ideally, hopefully, before everyone else, Hamish, that's the name of the game. So we'll be all over that as the week progresses. So, keep your eye on the Celtic Way.
Great stuff. Plenty more going on the website, as John says. I will return this time tomorrow when we'll be a day closer to Celtic's big return. I'll chat to you then.